We have the counter, and we're just cleaning up the code a little bit, right? So that we can work with much bigger applications. Let's see. For instance, this counter. It'd be nice if this counter would be in its own file, right? That we have all the components should live under a directory, perhaps called components, right? So let's do that. Let's move the. Let's create here under source. We'll create a directory called components. We'll create a file called in components. We'll call it counter.js. And in there, we'll move the counter in there. So we'll put the counter here, and we'll need React here, right? So we'll import React from React. Okay, and in here we can now import counter from components counter. Okay. And export. Oh, we never exported it. And here we're going to export the counter. We'll say export default counter. All right, there we go. Okay. So that makes it easier, right? If you just have one like we're doing here, it's not worth it. But imagine we had tons of dozens of these. You would have one component. That's the best practice. You have one component one file per component. Okay. Let's see what else. The reducer would be nice that it lived in one single place, right? So let's do that. Let's move the reducer elsewhere. Also, this component of the app component that it's being connected, that'd be nice also if it lived somewhere else. Right? So let's move the reducer. Right? So the reducer, we're going to move it. We can take this, and we'll need what? Let's see. What do we need? The reducer will need these constants, right? Or let's do the constants first. Right, let's do the constants. So all these should perhaps live in a separate file, right, where you have a list of all your constants, right? So let's do that. So let's create a file here that has in constants/constants.js. And in here, let's declare all these strings. Right? So we're going to export const increment equal increment. And same thing for decrement. So this will be decrement, and this will be decrement. Right? And it's a good practice to give it some abstract name, right? So that it's reusable, it's a meaningful name. The actual value doesn't really matter, right? As long as it means something to you. Right? But it does matter is what the name that you actually give it, right? So that you can reuse it everywhere else in somewhere meaningful. So we're going to import this. So import both the increment and the decrement from constants. And we're going to reuse it here. So this will be increment. We're going to replace all occurrences of increment and decrement. Okay. Anywhere else? Right here, right? All these would also go. So decrement and increment. Right. Anywhere else? I think that's it. Let's see if we broke it. Okay, it looks like it's still working. All right. So we move the constants. One word here. Notice that here, this constants. We could rename the constants to be index. If you rename this to be index, notice that it changes for you, right? So the IDE is nice with that, right? But the index is actually treated as the default file, right? So it's actually not needed, right? It's optional. You can leave it out. And if you leave out the actual name of the file, it assumes you meant the index file. Right? Very much like if you leave out the index.html when you look up a document, same thing here. Right? So if you say constants, it loads. All right? Everybody okay? All right. All right, so how about moving the reducer out of here? And also, it might be that we have more than one reducer. You might have multiple reducers, right? In a very complex application, you might have multiple reducers depending on how nested your application is. So let's move the reducers out of here. So let's create a file here, and this will be reducers, and it'll put it in the index file because we only have just one reducer, right? So let's put it in here. So let's see. Let's grab everything here. Reducer. We'll probably need this import as well. We'll need the counter, and that's it, right? So let's grab that out of here, and let's copy it right there. We have the initial value, we have the count reducer, and we probably are going to need to export that reducer. Right? So let's do an export here. We'll do export. And here we can load the reducer from that place. Will be import count reducer from the reducer, and we don't need the index. But the count reducer, notice that it's looking for a local constant. Actually, we're going to have to go up one and down two constants, right? So let's see if the counter it's not finding increment and decrement. Did I change the name? Where? Oh, I removed it from here. Yeah, no. Thank you. And this is from the local constants. Okay, so it still works. All right, everybody okay? And another thing that we need to move from here, right, is this app here. This app is playing the part of a container, right? The container is like the name suggests, contains other objects, contains other components. And the components are the ones who need the data, right? And it's providing that data to all the child elements in there, and it's handling all this mapping that all the children need. So this too needs to be moved out of here. So let's move it out to its own component. So we'll call it the app component, since the name of it is app. And in there we can handle also all the connections and all the mapping, and all that can be all encapsulated in one single place, right? Into that container. So let's see. We can let's create a container here. We'll say this will be containers. So and there might be multiple containers, right? Again, depending how nested your application is. And so this might be app.js. And in here we can move all these containers, right? The mappers and the container themselves. We can move out of here, right? So we can actually, before we do that, notice that the container is going to need these actions. It's going to need those actions. So we should move the actions first, right? So let's move the actions first. These actions, these decrement, right? Because there might be tons of actions. Right now we only have two, right? But there may be dozens of actions. So let's move those into their own file. So let's move that. So we'll put it under actions in index.js, and in there we'll move these here, and we'll put them here, and we will export these. So this will be export and export. So they're available outside of this file, and here we can now import these. We're going to say we can import the increment and the decrement from that, and we no longer need these here. And increment and decrement. Oh, right. So these actions, right? These actions need these increments. So we need to load those constants. So let's import that as well. So we'll need increment and decrement from there. Okay, there we are. Plus and minus, right? So we no longer need those increment and decrement. So we move them out of the way, right? So they're in their own file. And finally, now we can move our dispatchers and our app into its own app.js, right? So let's comment that out, and let's put it in a container. And let's see, we need the increment and decrement. What else do we need? And we need to export this, right? So we're going to export default the app, so that from out here we can load that, we can import that app, we can import the app from containers, and then app.js. Let's see. Connect. Oh, we need connect. Right? We need connect. So we need to load from within the app. From within the app, we need to load all these. Right? We need the connect. That's in React Redux, right? So that's import connect from React Redux. What else are we missing? Anything else? What are we missing? Counter. Oh yeah, counter. Yes, very good. Thank you. So that's import counter from. We're going to go up and down to components, and then counter. Anything else? What is it missing? Can't resolve. Module not found. Can't resolve. Oh, actions. I thought we had actions. Oh, need to go up one, maybe. Is that it? Yeah. Right. You have to go up to actions and then down, and it still works, right? So at the end of the day, the only thing you're left with, right, in your index, right, is just the creation of the store, right, and providing that store to the parent container that then trickles down all those events and all that state down to any children. Okay? All right, there's a whole bunch of things that we don't need here anymore. We don't need counter, we don't need increment, we don't need connect. Right? All those are being handled by the app and the component themselves. Make sense? All right. So that's the harder part. There's two things. First, creating all the plumbing, right, and then moving things into their own particular file and directory, and then just plugging everything in. Right? Just the plumbing first is what is most time-consuming and frustrating. But once you get that piece, right, of things talking to one another and connected and whatnot, and then you get into a pattern. Right? Okay. This has to generate a new action. I need to map that action handle in the reducer. Reducer generates a new state and then gets propagated back into the containers and components. All right. Awesome.